Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Aware and Ahead. I'm your host Greg Johnson, and today I just wanted to do a little bit, something a little bit shorter, just because of time's sake and everything, and what's been on my mind. So I just posted something on my Instagram actually of a little snippet, what is it called, like self-help motivational video or whatever by a guy named Deontay Wilder. Now I don't know who this is. This looks like a sport or some type of athlete, I should say, probably from basketball or something like that. And it's really interesting because the reason that I wanted to bring this up was because of how he talks about belief and greatness, and how not even 10 seconds before that I was thinking about belief, and then after that video and stuff, it just made me realize that I wanted to do a quick little thing about it. So I wrote down the quote that he mentioned, and then I want to kind of go in from there. So he said that without belief, we cannot be great. We all have greatness in us, but greatness is only determined by our service. So apply your service, and when you shall, you'll see your greatness up out of yourself. So again, that's Deontay Wilder. Really cool guy. Haven't heard or seen anything from him before besides that, but I think that's a really great thing because what I've been learning about with self-belief is that was a really big thing that I've lacked for all of my life. There's been moments where I've had belief, and looking back on them, like during my wilderness program, or when you get a girlfriend or something like that, the reason that those things really happen, or like a big part of the building block to that, is the belief in yourself. And I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, people talk about it, but you don't really digest the material. And what I mean by that is that, like, a lot of these words, or a lot of these like motivational videos, or a lot of these people that they talk about, the audience that they talk to, you get like a quick little high. You're like, oh yeah, totally, that sounds great. And then you do nothing with it. And I think that's because of the ignorance and the lack of understanding of what they really mean on another level. So like a lot of the stuff that these people, these entrepreneurs, what they say, it does hold real value to them, and it is really important. But because of either how we're raised, how society has conditioned us, there's a lot of these things that I believe that we don't actually really listen to what people are saying, and that we don't understand really the depth of words and their importance. Like, I could say believe in yourself, and everyone else is like, yeah, no shit, that's what, like, again, like everything that I've been saying, someone could be like, yeah, no duh, that's an obvious thing. But if you haven't, in some ways, been on one side of the pendulum, right? I like to think of life as a pendulum where typically we get swung one way, and then because of ideals, beliefs, insight, or whatever, we swing really hard another way. And the idea is to kind of get that a little bit more centered in the middle. And you could be on one way for so long of not listening and not really believing in yourself, and actually not having that belief. And then when you finally do start to get a little bit of that belief, it swings really hard and it swings really fast, but that momentum can be lost, and you can all of a sudden swing back over to not believing in yourself. And I feel like that's what's more common with people than anything else. And so it's kind of like, first of all, how do we get self belief? And then how do we keep that, right? So for my idea on how to be able to have belief is to be able to push yourself. Like, again, these words that I'm saying, they sound really preachy, or they just sound really ordinary, or whatever, like someone else is saying, right? But I want to really break down what that actually means, and do it pretty quickly because, again, I don't want this video to be too long. But it's like, believe in yourself. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Belief in yourself means that you are able to have belief and confidence. I feel like are very similar. They are definitely two different things, but for the sake of this, we're going to kind of use them interchangeably. So belief is having the confidence in yourself of the promises that you make to yourself. That's something that Ed Mylett says. He says it a little bit more eloquently, but same idea, where someone who lacks confidence or who lacks self-belief is because they don't keep promises to themselves. So start off by keeping little promises to yourself, right? So like something I'm doing right now is I am taking online classes about copywriting, where it kind of sounds weird, but I love writing and I love being really creative with my writing. So copywriting is a way for me to be able to use that skill that I already love to then be able to make some type of revenue off of it, so then I can be able to use that revenue to actually build and start my own business. That's the idea behind it, and that's why I'm getting into this. But here's the thing is that even though that is, like I've just explained on how I do really like these things, I still have a really bad habit of procrastination. Procrastination is something that's very much ingrained in my old self and in my old behavior that I am destroying intentionally and getting rid of because I know it doesn't serve me. Or it has served me in the past, but it doesn't serve me anymore. Another really great quote that I like to help with the idea of indecision or procrastination, and really think on this as well, is money loves speed, wealth loves time, and poverty loves indecision. So if you're wanting to really move your life, again, it's kind of like the other quote where it's like indecision is a decision. So really, if you want to move ahead in life, you have to just take action and you have to keep going. And I know I kind of am repeating some of these things, but it's to really get the point across and to really think about what I'm saying. So first, believe in yourself. How did I do that with my procrastination with these classes, right? Okay, so there's these quick little videos that they go on, and what I started doing is I just said, all right, I'm going to watch. They're each like 2 to 3 minutes long, okay? So I was like, I'm going to focus and write, and I'm going to watch 3 of these videos. So 1, 2, 3, right? I'm going to watch 3 videos, and then I'm going to allow myself to get a break. I started doing that about yesterday, and I started doing that today, and I noticed that my level of focus that I'm able to put on that, because that's a really small thing. Like the videos themselves, you're maybe watching 10 minutes max of what you're actually learning about, right? Which that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you take in the time to, when you take in the time to actually write meaningful notes on it and to put it in your own words so that you actually understand it and to actually get things figured out, it takes longer than that 10 minutes. But the videos themselves are only the 10 minutes, right? So you're really spending about, I'd say maybe 20-25 minutes, which sounds kind of crazy, but that's because I like my writing, and it kind of goes into other stuff. But the point of that is that I kept the belief, or I was able to start believing in myself, and I am starting to believe in myself because I kept that promise. And that was only within the time span of 2 days. So think about being able to build these little promises up over time. And that's where my second point comes into, which is gaining and keeping momentum. So a lot of us, we start something, we get really good at it, but then we drop off immediately. And then we're like, oh crap, I'm stuck again, or how do I get back into this, or whatever, or I'm in a rut, right? Like, part of where I think our frustration comes, or where we beat ourselves up the most, is because of how we gain traction on something and then we drop off again. Like this could be with schoolwork, this could be with personal relationships, like having good conversations with people, this could be with quitting pornography and going for like a week and then dropping off. So like there's all these reasons, right? But then if you're able to be more consistent, your drop-offs start being less and less. So like for me with pornography and stuff, it's that my time span now, and I had a lot of insight on this, it's a lot more frequent on a lot longer periods. So again, this is a very personal thing to talk about, but the reason being is that, I'm not consistent as in like I have gone for 5 months yet or whatever, right? No, it's more so of that, like I'm able to keep a consistency of bringing it out even one more day, a little bit longer each day, and that's the consistency of it. And eventually, like with other things, I'm gaining the momentum to the point where I'm just gonna stop. Like with smoking, for instance, I got to the point where, for those of you who don't know, I used to smoke. I liked cigarettes. I loved cigarettes. I hate vaping. Like, it's fun for the tricks and stuff, but overall, it's a poor way. Like, tobacco was the way to go. But anyways, so the reason I bring this up is because of what I did to transition from smoking cigarettes and vape to only vaping to then being done was through consistent momentum. So it's kind of the two of them together, consistent momentum, right? So what I would do is I would be with a friend, and my friend and I, we'd get a pack of cigarettes, and then we'd say, okay, we're going to have this many a day. And then you cut down how many you have a day, and you cut down that time period in a week. So, like, say I get to have the whole pack in one day on the first day. On the second day, I only get to have two less. So, like, I get to have 22 out of 24, whatever pack variant or whatever you're trying to buy. I don't remember because it's been a couple years. But so then you drop that down, and then you drop it down a little bit more, and then the next week you're like, okay, now I'm only at half a pack a day. And then you get to the point where you really start challenging yourself because you see the progress that you're making. So then I got to the point where I was like, I'm having a cigarette, one cigarette every other day. Now that sounds like crazy because it's like, well, you're still engaging in the bad habit. Yes, I am, but compared to having 3 cigarettes in one 10-minute time period and then waiting 10 more minutes and then having another 3 or whatever, like, I've consistently dropped how much I'm using in the usage of it. I got to the point where it was like I was gonna be able to be at having 1 cigarette once a week or something like that. And I got to the point where I was like, it's not worth me keeping the habit at that point. It's not worth that 1 cigarette is not worth it anymore because of the time that I have away from it. That's the same thing that I'm trying to do with pornography and stuff, but the point I bring that up is because we can do this same mindset with kind of flipping it in the sense of how instead of maybe taking less from something, it's adding more. So again, it could be I'm going to watch the 3 videos like I mentioned before with my copywriting, okay? I'm going to watch 3 videos, and then it's, oh, now I'm going to watch 4 videos. Oh, now I'm going to spend more time doing this. Oh, I'm going to write more notes on it. I'm going to, instead of now 4 videos, I'm able to say, okay, now I'm going to focus for a whole hour, right? It's about be consistent with building up, because once you're consistent with building up, then that is right there, that scale or that graph that you could put, that's where momentum comes. And that's where I think you get to the point eventually, and I think a lot of people in the gym can what is it called, they can agree with this, where once you build up so much momentum, you just don't want to stop, because what's the point in stopping at this point? What is the value worth it, right? Like, what was the value? There was more value in me just stopping smoking than to have that 1 quick high a day or whatever it was, right? Like, I still have some psychological things with it where my body still craves it, but I don't go back into it. When I get anxious, I know, okay, my body is going to start doing and replicating things that are akin to smoking or to smokers, okay? But I know that I'm not going to get... I'm so far along where I'm going to be at, like, the 5-year mark, I think, 4 or 5 years, something like that, where it's just not... That momentum is way more worth it than having a quick fix of nicotine. And it's a lot easier to say and it's a lot easier to do when you're in a logical state of mind, right, than it is being in an emotional state of mind. But that comes to play then where you have to eliminate where you're going to be more emotionally vulnerable to those things so that you can stay logical and keep the consistency and keep the momentum. My health and my safety and the habits and patterns that I'm building right now, they are way more, like, sexy to me, or they are way more cool than smoking and drinking and partying. Like, I'm just at that point, and that's not to say I'm better than those people, it's just that these are traits that I don't personally find or hold value anymore, and I found and held value in this. And that's a personal decision. That can be, like, for people who do that, cool, that's fine. I'm not condemning them for that. I'm judging them for it, like I mentioned in other videos, because that's not the mindset or the place I want to be at. But that doesn't mean that I shit on them or think of them as any less. They just aren't my crowd or people that I want to hang out with anymore. And so kind of take these insights, take these thoughts, and implement them into your own areas, into even just one area, right? Like, say it's journaling. Journaling is something that I don't do daily, but I'm a lot more consistent about. And it's something that I've found to be really helpful. And maybe you want to do that as well, okay? So get to the consistency of, like, instead of saying, I'm going to write a full page a day, honestly, just start with writing a sentence. Because if you only commit to that sentence, one, you're going to obviously do more because there's no point in just writing one sentence. But if you do even just write the one sentence, you can stop right there and have the satisfaction of the belief of keeping the promise that I wrote one sentence for a journal today. And while that sounds so small, that is way more important to building your self-confidence and to building that belief structure again, right? Like, I've kind of gone off on this tangent, but again, this all goes back to the belief part of where it is that you believe in yourself and why you're believing in yourself. Why are you able to believe in yourself? Oh, because I keep the promises that I'm making to myself now. So I could kind of keep going off on this, and I've gone a little bit longer than I thought I would, so I apologize for that, but thank you for listening if you have listened all the way through. One final thing that I want to think of with this as well is from the book, I believe it's the book Atomic Habits, or it was someone else. I remember more of the video of them talking about it, but there's a author that he wrote about someone who went a really big, overweight, obese person, right? Someone that isn't healthy. He promised going to the gym for 5 minutes a day. And just by doing that, 5 minutes is freaking walking in, putting your, if you have a whole bag and stuff, that it can take 5 minutes just to get ready for the gym. But this person, walked into the gym, probably did 5 minutes on the treadmill, maybe one or two, weight machine exercises or whatever, and walked out. The weight wasn't the important part of that, though. The importance of it was that he was showing up for himself, so then he believed in himself, so then he had the belief that he could lose the weight that he wanted to lose and knew he could lose because of that belief. So it's such a very, if it isn't, I would say that it is the first and the most fundamental building block to building yourself up to go anywhere in life, because I have gone 23 years without this as a constant. Of course, like I mentioned, there's little moments and bits in time, but overall it's been a constant of not believing in yourself, and that doesn't serve anyone, and that especially doesn't serve yourself. And if you can't do it for yourself, then think about how much of a disservice it is to others because you don't believe in yourself. Then how can they trust you? How can they appreciate you? And how can you be a true and loyal friend if you don't believe in yourself? So get your head out of your ass, take yourself out of your ego, get the fuck up, and do what you're supposed to do. If it's not even for yourself, do it for other people. Because I understand that doing things for yourself is a really hard thing to do. So, in the beginning, do it for other people. Do it for your parents. Do it for your sister. Do it to be an influence. Do it out of a place of cockiness. I don't care. Just start building that self-belief, because the self-belief, again, is what's going to be able to skyrocket you to everything else. Because I have this self-belief in myself now, right, that I'm building, I want to keep this momentum, and I'm going to have to that means that I'm going to have to put in consistent work each day. But one final quote is, once you start winning, you realize that winning is more fun than fun is fun. And to that, I want to leave you on that note, and I want you to really think about it and realize that once you start winning, that's what gets fun. And the game is fun. The hard work starts being fun because of how you're winning, because of your belief that you're winning, okay? So this goes so many different ways, and from someone who hasn't had belief in themselves for a very long time, I don't say this out of pity. I don't say this for people to have pity, sympathy, empathy, whatever version it is, I can't remember. I say it because I want you to finally believe in yourself so that you can take this next step right after this video to commit to doing one small thing. Commit to one small thing that you know takes a minute or less. Because at the end of the day, it's you with you. I don't believe in you versus you. Some people love that. I believe that in order for you to really succeed, yes, you want to be greater than you were yesterday, but you first have to build the mindset that you can trust yourself. So remember, trust yourself. Don't be an airhead. Be aware and ahead. Thanks, guys.